Yogananda's view on reincarnation in many lives. Have you ever felt such a deep connection with someone you just met that it seemed like a reunion between old souls? Or a strange nostalgia for a place you've never been? What if I told you that none of this is a coincidence? They're echoes of reincarnation, vibrations stored in the most subtle layers of consciousness. The truth is, we live far more than one lifetime, and each existence leaves invisible marks in the passions that drive us, the fears that hold us back, and the choices we keep repeating. But what's truly fascinating is that these signs aren't hidden in temples or sacred books. They're within us, waiting for us to awaken to the quantum mechanics that move the universe of the soul. For centuries, we've been taught to believe that life begins in the cradle and ends in the grave. But science and spirituality, once divided, are now slowly coming together. Quantum mechanics reveals that nothing truly dies, it only changes form. And if everything is energy, then the spirit is the spark that never goes out. Paramahansa Yogananda, one of the great masters of the 20th century, taught that reincarnation is the grand school of the cosmos, a perfect system of justice where every soul receives exactly the experiences it needs to evolve. According to him, the purpose of so many lifetimes is to lead us back to the remembrance of the divine. He saw existence as a cosmic play where each act is a new incarnation, and the main storyline is the awakening of consciousness. What looks like chance is, in truth, part of a greater order, a dance of cause and effect governed by spiritual laws as precise as the laws of physics. Just as quantum mechanics describes particles that appear and disappear without ever losing energy, the soul too changes bodies without ever losing its essence. Every birth is a chance for purification, a new stage where the spirit performs to remember what it truly is. But Yogananda also warned that we often mistake the character for the actor. The body is only the costume the soul wears to play its part on earth. When it ages, the soul removes it and moves on, carrying with it the invisible luggage of consciousness. Humanity's greatest mistake is believing that we are only this body, this name, this story. When we forget our eternal nature, we become trapped in limited roles. Yet when we awaken, we realize that we are the consciousness observing, not the reflection in the mirror. In that instant, the fear of death dissolves, and life becomes lighter. And if the soul is eternal, why don't we remember our past lives? Yogananda answered with deep wisdom, forgetting is an act of divine mercy. Our human mind, so limited, couldn't bear the weight of centuries of accumulated memories. We forget not because we've lost them, but because we need space to begin again. Reincarnation erases conscious memory but keeps the vibration. That's why we're born with unexplainable talents, tendencies, or fears. What was once experience becomes energy, and that energy shapes our new destiny. Yogananda said this sacred amnesia is the great reset of the soul. Each life is a blank canvas offered by the universe so that we can write a more conscious story. Still, some souls, more purified and evolved, are able to recall fragments of previous lives. Not out of curiosity, but out of purpose. Memory arises when consciousness is ready, like a seed that only sprouts when the soil is fertile. The true goal isn't to remember the past, but to understand the present, and that's where the so-called old souls appear. Spirits who have lived so many lifetimes that the material world no longer deceives them. They walk calmly through chaos, look at life with compassion, and feel they don't quite belong to this time. They have refined intuition, almost as if they can hear the silent voice of the universe's quantum mechanics. They recognize people and places they've never seen before, as if the soul's map carries coordinates from other journeys. And most of all, they seek not just answers, but meaning. These souls are not impressed by status, power, or appearance. They've experienced it all and discovered that nothing external can truly fill the inner void. They're moved by simplicity and coherence. Many feel a deep fatigue, not physical but existential, a longing to end the cycle and return to the divine home. It's a sign they may be in their final incarnation, when a being no longer seeks fleeting pleasure or fears pain, but desires only the divine. The wheel of karma begins to slow down. The soul becomes free, not through escape, but through transcendence. Yogananda explained that the end of the cycle doesn't depend on time, but on consciousness. Each reincarnation is a lesson, and the school ends only when learning is complete. Liberation happens when the human self recognizes its unity with the whole, when the observer and the observed become one. The memory of past lives loses its importance because the being now understands that everything exists in the present moment. The past and future cease to be lines and merge into a single point, the now, where eternity reveals itself. He saw the soul's journey as an ascending spiral, a continuous movement of descent and rise until the soul merges completely with divine consciousness. Birth, life, death, and rebirth are just phases of the same flow. Just as quantum physics shows that observation changes the behavior of particles, Yogananda taught that consciousness changes destiny. When you become aware of the pattern, the cycle begins to transform. The universe is not a random stage, but a mirror reflecting the vibrational state of your being. To him, Earth was a spiritual school. Every soul comes here to learn, make mistakes, love, and grow. The hardest experiences are disguised teachers pushing us toward expansion. As consciousness matures, the lessons become more subtle. Less pain, more awareness. That's why awakened souls live with greater lightness, not because they have fewer problems, but because they understand their purpose. Evolution, after all, isn't measured by the number of lives we live, but by how deeply we live each one. Yogananda also said that nothing in life is random. People, meetings, even separations, everything is part of a perfect symphony. Every relationship is an adjustment of old vibrations. Every affection or conflict is an echo from another life. Reincarnation is like the quantum mechanics of emotion, moving consciousness so that love can be learned in all its forms. And when that learning is complete, the soul reaches liberation, moksha. In that state, it may choose not to return or to come back only to serve, guided by compassion rather than necessity. The signs of a soul that has traveled long paths are clear. Natural empathy, spontaneous wisdom, detachment from the superficial, and a deep desire to serve. These are the souls Yogananda described as living not for themselves, but as instruments of the divine. Their consciousness vibrates so high that it transforms everything around them. They don't speak about love, they are love in action. And the more awakened they become, the quieter they grow. Because they've already understood that what is essential doesn't need to be proven, only lived. But Yogananda also reminded us, spirituality without practice is just theory. Understanding reincarnation means nothing if we don't apply its wisdom in daily life. Every thought is creative energy, and every choice is a seed of the future. Consciousness is the brush with which we paint destiny. The spiritual quantum mechanics of life work silently but precisely. The universe reflects back what we send out, rearranging circumstances according to our vibration. That's why the first step toward awakening is self-observation, noticing our patterns, fears, and repetitions. This awareness changes everything. When we act with consciousness, karma stops being punishment and becomes learning. The awakened being understands that the right question is not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this trying to teach me?" That's how suffering turns into wisdom, and destiny becomes choice. Yogananda called this the miracle of the awakened will, the moment a person remembers they are a co-author of their own cosmic story. He also taught that serving others is the fastest path to evolution because service dissolves the ego. Helping another is healing yourself. It's reincarnation in motion, awakening in action. For Yogananda, meditation was the bridge between the visible and the invisible, the frequency alignment between body and soul. To meditate is to remember where we came from, to recharge our original energy, and to tune into the rhythm of the universe. In this state, consciousness expands, fear retreats, and life flows again with purpose. At every moment, the soul is expressing itself through us. In each decision, it chooses whether to repeat the past or create something new. When we live with presence, we end the cycle of reincarnation without needing to die. It's awakening in life. The moment consciousness realizes eternity has already begun. And if every lifetime is a lesson, then this one is the most important of all, because it's the one where you finally remember who you are. So maybe the real question isn't, how many lives have I lived? But what am I doing with this one? True awakening isn't about remembering the past, it's about transforming the present. The universe is a mirror sensitive to consciousness, and everything we send out returns to us with the same vibration. That's the quantum mechanics of the spirit, a field where love, intention, and awareness shape reality. And the secret is simple. What you think, feel, and do is what you become. Yogananda said, "Eternity doesn't begin after death. It begins when you awaken." So live as if this were your last incarnation. Not out of fear, but out of love for presence. Love deeply, forgive lightly, serve joyfully. Because in the end, the soul isn't judged by how long it lived, but by how much it loved. And if something within you resonated with these words, it may be your soul recognizing itself. That means the awakening has already begun. So keep walking with us. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, and dive deeper into this universe of reincarnation, consciousness, and quantum mechanics. Because maybe, just maybe, this life is the turning point of your eternity.